Hello, everybody. I'm not sure if I'm actually broadcasting. Again, the new software is a little finicky, a little frustrating, but I think we're actually going now. So I'm going to get into setting everything up. And now I will cue the intro.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. I really do enjoy that. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the show for movie lovers who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them, and maybe a little more. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Netflix original Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods, a movie about 4 African-American vets who returned to Vietnam decades after the war to find their squad leader's remains and a stash of buried gold. What a fortuitous turn of events that both are in the same place. Anyway, where are we now? Let's, you know what? I'm going to shoot you the synopsis. Oh, my goodness. Eventually, I will get good at this. Da 5 Bloods opens with a montage of iconic American news footage from the 60s and 70s, including the Kent State shootings, the self-immolation of Buddhist monk Thich Quang Duc, and the Muhammad Ali interview where he says, quote, "No Viet Cong called me the N-word," close quote. Historical context in place, we then cut to a hotel lobby in modern-day Saigon and meet our vets, or Bloods. There's obvious PTSD sufferer and galactic a-hole Paul, played by Delroy Lindo, ostensible regular guy / voice of reason Otis, played by Clark Peters, happy-go-lucky Melvin, played by Isaiah Whitlock Jr., and I got the tab guy, Eddie, played by Norm Lewis. Later on, Paul's grown son David, played by Jonathan Majors, shows up and inserts himself in the group. In a series of postmodern flashbacks, we are introduced to their squad leader and likely Black Panther Party member, Stormin' Norman, played by Chadwick Boseman, and learn that the squad had found a large cache of gold while on a mission. Gold they had decided to bury and collect later as part of a loosely defined plan for reparations. We also find out that their plan didn't work out because the area had been napalmed and all their treasure buried here markers had been destroyed. One other thing. While we don't see it, apparently Norman died in combat around this time too. Back in present-day Saigon, the squad meets up with Jean Reno's incredibly lazy impersonation of a corrupt French diplomat, who agrees to launder their ill-gotten gains in spite of Paul's WTF, ethnic taunts, and half-accurate rant about American and French roles in World War II. With the Bloods' plans now in place, they head upriver to find the gold and Norman's remains. Helicopters and everything. Huh? All right, everybody. Now it's that time in the evening to welcome my co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chaboyko. There's your sound effects, Jim.
Thank you. The Two Bloods. They stole our name. That was our original name for this this podcast. The Two Bloods Overanalyze Movies. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, didn't think it would swing, but anyway.
Yeah. So,
how are you doing?
Pretty good. We've finally gotten a bit of a break from the heat. Not bad, eh?
I had a very pleasant picture viewing experience. I have a new laptop, and I watched the entire movie on my front porch today.
Oh,
It was great. It was just a little bit of sun, a little bit of shade. I had, I had the brightness turned up high, and the headphones on. It was great.
You know what? A bit of a breeze, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Look at this, Jelly Duck. Ahmed is enjoying your reference there.
We could have
Hashtag two bloods.
We could have 3, 4, or 5 bloods, depending on our loyal.
You know what? We've got four people watching.
Good.
So 4 streams watching. That's
Yes.
at least 5, perhaps several more people.
One of them, Spike Lee.
Yeah. Oh well.
No pressure.
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, but it is. It's this is the time of the night where we say hello, Jelly Duck. Good to see you, my friend. And it looks like Richard and Katie are up and running, so fantastic. You know what? I'll start right off the bat. Just love to ask folks who are watching, ask if they saw the film and what they thought of it. And so while you guys are looking at that, Jim, what did you think?
Well, these guys are the worst trip planners in the world, I think. I don't think they could organize a trip to Winnipeg and not have it go awry. But this is, whenever you see Spike Lee, you always expect a certain amount. You expect something that's kind of overstuffed. You expect something that's sort of, he makes his own rules a little bit. You
Very much so.
You expect a certain amount of energy and a lot of conflict, of course. And you always seem to get a super overbearing character or 2 or 3. So check. But yeah, I find his stuff, as much as I always enjoy queuing up one of his films, I never know sort of what to expect. This one, I felt it looked great in certain areas. You know, it's hard to make Vietnam look shabby, I'm pretty sure, or that Southeast Asia. But I felt the script was really kind of, I don't know. This is going to sound like a big dig, but it felt almost like
dig away. I suspect I'll be worse.
It felt like a TV show script for a movie, basically. Like it was kind of underbaked. And I thought a lot of the situations, I thought these guys aren't ready for this kind of situation. Like the trek and just even little things like gold is heavy. If you remember 30
Rock, it would be heavy for you and I 20 years ago.
There was a show on 30 Rock. They always made fun of up and coming TV shows, and one of them was called Gold Case. And they would hide a bunch of gold in one of these suitcases, and you could you have to tell the models could never hold it, could never shadow the fact that they were holding because it's so heavy. They would just be sitting there shaking. And I think John McEnroe was the host. I think he was like, this is the stupidest show ever, and I didn't make it past the pilot. But anyway, there's a lot of those things. It's all over the place, mood-wise, tonally. It's all over the place. The characters are
very much so.
You know, let's get our buddy back. Oh, but we'll leave a couple behind. Like there was the logic in it was faulty. I mean, there's always something to like in a movie. There's always some good scenes or good performances.
A couple of them, yeah.
But in this case, I mean, and there was in this case as well, but I felt overall it almost felt like a first draft to a story. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it felt underbaked to me.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't, Jim, I agree with you wholeheartedly about the vast majority of what you said, and I would even be stronger. I couldn't get to the end of this film. I read the rest of the summary on Wikipedia. It was just so... I just found it that bad, and I'm going to put up Richard's comment. Richard says, sadly, didn't get to see it. Won't stop us from enjoying your show. Well, Richard, we might have saved you 2.5 hours because it's a long freaking movie.
Yeah.
It's like 165 excruciating minutes.
Yeah.
Overstuffed is right. I wonder, though, Jim, kind of going back to your, maybe not first draft. I think it went through a number of drafts. If we look at who wrote it, it's you've got two. You literally have two writing teams here. So there's Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo. They wrote it back. It got sold, and then once Spike Lee got it, he brought in his writer, Kevin Willmott. They worked together on Black Klansman. They're writing partners, or I would probably argue, because Spike Lee's a feature film director. Big deal, right? Kevin Willmott, it's an and, but I suspect Kevin Willmott has to interpret Spike Lee's ideas, his inspiration, and make the gizmo go. And I think that fundamentally, I suspect, I'd be willing to make a small wager, actually, Jim, that is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing multiple movies here. Because you could have had, do you want to have some deeper kind of exploration of post-traumatic stress and the relation to soldiers to this place, the Black American soldiers' experience here, how they, reconcile that, so you could have done it could have been such a cool movie, even if it was just Delroy Lindo and his son. All of a sudden you're like, wow, like you've got this is deep. Or you could have done, it had all, in some ways this is like, it's Treasure of the Sierra Madre, where the gold drives them all crazy.
Yeah.
Or you could have done a heist film.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like two movies mashed together, and then, like you say, let's throw some stuffing. So it's not a turkey, it's not a turducken either. I'd say it's actually half turkey, half just a really quality chicken, and then the stuffing, the chicken got jammed in the turkey, and then stuffing after that, and you just got this mushy mess of a movie. And your TV comments, this is not a quality, I'm not going, wow, this is so well shot. You're right, Vietnam shoots well. Yeah. But not, almost in spite of the cinematography, in spite of those choices, it did, you're right, Jim. It had a TV kind of look. And there's a part of me now starting to wonder. Now, mind you, I haven't seen the most recent Netflix, The Power. And there's been some compliments to cinematography and the look and feel and that. But I got to admit, I'm starting to wonder, and I wanted to ask you, do you think Netflix actually can do, there's certain movies they do quite well on their budget with their look template. I'm calling it. The comedies, they actually do that quite well. Even when it's total BS, I don't know, any of the Adam Sandler series of, it still looks like what it is, a pretty good comedy, or even a mediocre comedy, but still shot well, it fits. Yeah. But these epic films are just not in its thing. And I don't think it's the medium, because after I watched this, as far as I could go, then I'd turn it off, then I'd go back for a while, just like a slog. Much like an old man humping gold bricks and all his other crap he took with him, perhaps with a hip problem. I got to admit, I was this is such a slog. And so I'm watching, meanwhile, over on, what is it, Crave, meant for that gorgeous His Dark Materials, where I'm like, okay, now that looks like a big time movie, and it's television, so it can be done. Yeah, apparently they spent a gazillion dollars. I don't know, but are you buying what I'm selling? Or
absolutely. And I think that maybe goes a little bit, and it's really hard to generalize, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Is that when we were asking the question last week or a couple weeks ago, what is a Netflix movie exactly? And so, it's not a film release and it's not a made-for-TV movie, maybe it's something in the middle. I don't quite know. And then you can always take ones out of it, like Roma, which I still haven't watched, sadly, from a few years back. That's obviously, a different sort of Netflix movie. I'm not even sure how the production lines up. But if it was wholly Netflix or something else. But I'm buying it. It's such a I was really taken aback by some, and mostly it's in the script. I think my favorite line in the whole movie was a whispered line in the dead of night, Gibbons. And I thought, wow, that's a line that I've never just like Gibbons.
Yeah.
Like stormtroopers or something like that. And there's your fireworks factory. No Gibbons appeared.
No.
So I was waiting for a Gibbon at the end, but anyway. It definitely, I don't know, it felt quick. It felt like it was made quickly, I guess.
Yes, it did. And I want to first of all, that's right, turkey chicken. It's a chicken with a turkey stuffed inside of it. That's what it is, Ahmed.
and a duck. Don't forget the duck.
Well, yeah, but isn't it like in a real turducken, which apparently is pretty good? It's what a duck stuffed inside a chicken, stuffed inside a turkey.
Yes.
I'm actually saying this is what's wrong with this movie. It is the other way around. It's the reverse turducken, which is why it's so buggered up,
A conductor. Conductor.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. You run with that. Shashank, great to see you in the chat, folks. We got another person joining us. Shashank, you'll have to let us know where you're from, like where you're hailing from. I kind of assume you're hailing from somewhere in India, but give us some specifics, my friend. Shashank is actually one of my fellow students in a course I'm taking to make these videos better for you. Of course, any fault in the first few minutes of this chat is not the fault of the instructor and all the operator. I am getting better, though. But Shashank, please let us know where you're hailing from. Because right now we've got Canada, we've got a bit of the States, we have Kuwait, and it'd be really nice if we were kind of go around the world.
Do the 7 continents.
That'd be cool, eh? So let me ask you this, Jim. This actually, it's funny. As much as I disliked this movie, really was but at times and I'm so glad you're coming out, wow, this was great, or this is solid, because there was so many critics that, this thing has a 92% rating from the critics on.
I saw that.
Yeah. 50% from the audience, though, which is also it's I'm not the only person thinking that this is not what everyone's thinking. But even when I was seeing critics reviewing it, they're kind of like the way you started, but they just ran with it and they're just making a bunch of excuses. It's almost and does this make sense to you, Jim? Almost sometimes where the critical consensus becomes a thing that they just, maybe just know something we don't, and it really is brilliant.
Yeah,
it's genius.
Yeah. It's the old
Jelly Duck. You are truly one loyal subscriber.
That's pretty badass, being up at 6 a.m. But I don't think the sun's even up until. Remember, it doesn't rise as early as it does here in the summer. But anyway, I get it. It's the old thing, whether good or bad, you have to watch your movie on your own. You're your own best critic, right?
Yeah.
Or your own best critic follow, I guess I should say. And there's been other examples before. I could not stand The Master with Philip, Joaquin Phoenix and help me out here, Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Couldn't stand it, didn't get it. It felt like an acting exercise to me, and everyone, loved it. But with this, I did see that it had a fairly high rating, and I when I find
what why?
What was the capsule review? Was like, Black Klansman was pretty good, so this one's pretty good too.
Well, Kermode. Like a critic, one of the critics I really am a fan of, Kermode and Mayo.
Yeah.
It was funny, all the stuff you said, he's saying, but almost like an explanation of why, well, he changes register and that. And I like Kermode. I don't find him too pretentious or anything, but it was very much a whole bunch of reasons why I like Spike Lee. So this is good.
Yeah.
Now, that said, Mayo, his counterpart, Shawshank is from, and I hope I'm not, I will look up the pronunciation later, Shawshank, but I'm assuming that's Chennai or Chennai.
It's what used to be called Madras.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah. Very cool.
Been there.
What highlight of visiting Chennai?
The highlight is they have a dessert called kulfi, so we went to this great outdoor. We had a really nice meal, and we had finished it off. There's a big, I guess, a banyan tree or banyan-like tree, and it was my wife and I were just sitting outside. This is ages ago, and the guy said, "Would you like anything else?" And I guess I didn't say it correctly. So I said, "Yeah, I'd like some kulfi and tea." And he says to me, and this is a true story, "You want coffee and tea?" But that's my story.
Well, there you go. That's great. That's a great anecdote.
Yes.
Oh, and look at this. My first pronunciation was spot on.
There you go.
There we are. I feel... And plus, I practiced that thick wang duk.
That was good. I was gonna give you. I thought, he must have studied that.
I did.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the actual subject.
What movie were we talking about again?
Yeah, exactly. What was going on?
Gone with the Wind is out of date.
Okay. What did you think of? Now, there were some interesting choices. And before I give you my opinion on it, I wanted to hear what you thought. Whenever the flashbacks, so for again, folks, you're in the spoiler zone. It is what it is. I'm assuming Ahmed is referring to your coffee and tea. Yeah. Although maybe Shawshank can give us the proper pronunciation for the coffee as well. Okay, so for those of you who haven't seen it, there are the flashbacks, and it's kind of why I made a postmodern reference. The flashbacks are in 4:3, like old school TV format. Just think of olden times TV, standard definition format, not widescreen, not high def. So they do that. It's super grainy, like on 60 millimeter. Or Super 16 at best. No, it'd all be 60 millimeter then. News film format. But they use the act, like Delroy Lindo plays, not just plays his character. They don't de-age. They don't do any of that, which was a choice. And I wanted to know what you thought of it. Like,
I didn't mind it. The very last not quite the last shot, but one of the last shots of the movie is a picture of the five of them as young men, which you didn't see before because they are using they don't have makeup on. They're still graying at the temples. And I mean, they have a lot of military gear on, hats and helmets and that sort of thing. But I thought it was an interesting choice. Yeah, I mean, I found the final photo distracting because it looked like, especially with the Isaiah Whitlock Jr. Character, he looked like he had been massively made over, and they all have darker eyebrows and their hair's darkened a bit, and I found that kind of distracting, and I didn't find it as distracting them playing themselves. There's a lot of, it's as you said, the film's a little grainier. There's a lot of distant shots. They're running around. There's not a lot of close-ups. So I thought it was kind of an interesting choice. The option, it's sort of when you try to hide the age, then it sort of becomes apparent a lot of the times. And that's more distracting than anything. So I thought it was kind of a ballsy choice, actually.
Yeah. I don't necessarily, it's one of those things where I'm like, maybe this is part of... Now, I'll give Spike Lee some credit here, or some slack, or benefit of the doubt. It was like an interesting choice that if it fed into other parts of the movie, where you kind of go, wow, they really are doing something here to emphasize this, and then we're doing that. But in the end, it was like... well, that's neat. Like a curio, not an actual, this is part of the subtext of the film, or like I would say it's more
these men haven't changed or something like that,
Yeah, or even just to acknowledge their change or something. But at times it was almost like, and that's why I was kind of asking. It's the one part where I'm like, well, I'm not against it. I'm not for it either. I just think it's interesting. Yeah, curio, a little tchotchke on the shelf of the film,
I think a lot of times when you recast him,
Richard, apparently Richard, because that's who Richard is. That's why we love him. He's looking up some of the stats, and IMDb apparently is only 6.5. And I'm like, I would say IMDb is being generous. Or the IMDb fan reviewers are being generous. Yes. Sorry, Jim. Continue.
When you're doing that kind of, for lack of a better term, time jump casting, when you have something, currently, and you have something 40 years ago, and you have to cast like 4 other actors, and they kind of have to resemble the people. You have to insert a lot of exposition and refer to characters by name, and that's even perhaps a little more distracting too. Hey Bob, what you got there, Bob? Is your gun filled with bullets, Bob? Or whatever bad dialogue you want to put in there to hammer the home that these are the characters that they're playing. That avoids that. I mean, and then you avoid any kind of special effects. There was a little bit. Who did it well? It was Kurt Russell in Guardians of the Galaxy. That wasn't bad, but it wasn't done for too long. I think they did it in The Irishman as well, and that people found that, I think, distracting.
It was almost like a 50-50, I think, with The Irishman. Yeah. Some people thought it was great, others. Where it was done well in recent... they keep getting better. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, yeah.
The Ant-Man being my favorite Marvel character.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Regular schmo. And unlike... I also enjoy the Spider-Man character. I just think, especially in MCU, I think the last movie of are you trying to make him into a child soldier? This is like abuse.
Yeah. Quit going places with your class, anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. Get back to the neighborhood. You're the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, not the friendly, global traveler.
Nope.
That is a great question, Shashank. Why? Yeah, you know what, Jim, I'll throw that to you before I answer. Why do you think, Shashank's asking, why do you, with a shout out to Richard, why do you think that the primary reason, what's the primary cause of the difference between what the audience thinks and the critics think?
It might be that, like you said, critics come to expect a certain level of quality, I think, from Spike Lee and a Spike Lee joint, and it doesn't always deliver. He can be, his movies can be hit or miss, I find. Like I said, I enjoy when one comes out. I enjoy the chance of watching one, but on the other hand, too, this is a streaming thing, right? So you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go out of your way to, I've heard a lot about this Spike Lee character. I'm going to go see one of his movies. I'm going to, it's the sort of, I guess the what's the word I'm looking for? It's the culinary, comparison of making toast as opposed to making, all you have to do is, get onto your Netflix channel and set it up. You don't have to get in a car and go anywhere to specifically see this movie. You can just say, I've heard about this guy, bam. So maybe that's what it is. And so you have a lot of people, a lot more diverse. Like, not everyone's going to go out of their way to go watch Black Klansman, right?
Okay.
Okay. In a theater, I don't think. You know what I mean? So I think, and Dog Days of Summer and COVID, Netflix notoriously doesn't give out its numbers. Who knows how many people have actually watched the thing, but maybe that's part of it as well.
How long do they watched it? How many of them were me just finally going, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point. No, and I want to make sure I understand you here, sure. Jim. One of the possible reasons is Spike Lee in the theater. It's Spike Lee fans going.
Yes.
And I think once you get into the theater, you're going to have different expectations.
Yeah.
It's almost like drinking a really nice wine. You're going to like it because you just spent $50 on it. Mm-hmm. The context. Whereas here, a lot of people on Netflix going to, this is a great kind of thing. What you're saying is a lot of people on Netflix might just go, oh, war movie. They're not going, oh, Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Oh, all these things that come with a Spike Lee movie, they're going, oh, look, war movie. Mm-hmm. Cool. War movie and a heist.
Yeah.
And they get this.
Gold.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I think to add to that, not necessarily to be any different, or take away from that, I think that's a great kind of reason for that discrepancy. I'm also thinking, though, Shashank, and I'd love to hear what you think, Jim, after I get my thought out here. I do think, going back to the Kermode and Mayo thing, Kermode is given this, he even, his plus is super lukewarm. He does make some criticisms, but again, like I said, almost making excuses for it. He does this anyway, and he does that anyway. Like I said, much like you're talking about at the beginning, but also his partner, his broadcasting partner, he had just interviewed Spike Lee. And there's a part of me kind of going, this is a BBC radio show, and all these other folks that, kind of in that world where there's only so many people they can, reach out to that would have any interest in being on their show, that because that's their market, it might be kind of, there's a little bit of we got to be gentle here because we want to interview them. We don't want their publicists on or you-know-what. Hey, you didn't get it. And some of that also, and mind you, some of the almost sycophantish, real critic, but sycophantish stuff, this may have been it. I don't think it was with Kermode, but some of it might be. It came out in, pardon my poor language, it came out in goddamn May with George Floyd, and I mean, you and several people are watching us, but our incomes aren't dependent upon this.
Yeah.
We can, but do you want to be the guy who goes, oh, stinker from Spike Lee?
Yeah, yeah.
That time, so and I'm even there, like, and I'm not even saying the, not necessarily the critic, but maybe the employer is kind of going, be cool, right? We do not want protests outside our door because you decided to really tear them a new one, so I'm wondering if that's part of it. But last and certainly not least, I think some of it is, I'm going to go back to wine. Like, there's been so much research on wine and how it works, how people taste it. It's there's a lot of people that's just Spike Lee. I saw one and I'll see if I can't find it before the show is over. I saw one just top line summary. The guy is literally saying, "Oh, Delroy Lindo, shoe in for Best Actor nom. Don't even." And I'm like, what? You just chewed up the scenery. This was not a great performance. All the supporting players, the other part of the crew should at least be in the conversation. I'm like, what movie did you see? Delroy Lindo is a great actor, but you see in this movie the best way I could describe it, Jim, and you remember, what was I even wrote it down. Bear with me, my friend.
Sure.
It was Arthur. Who was that character he played? Arthur Rose in... It was Arthur Rose in Cedar House Rules.
So, yeah. Okay, I was going to say Cedar House Rules. Yeah.
Brilliant portrayal. Like, I really thought it was just a brilliant portrayal, or a brilliant bit of acting, and the way he had both this real kindness, there's a soulful sweetness and kindness that he could have, and strength, but just under it, you could just see it every now and then. The way Delroy Lindo could deliver kind of crazy, like, I'm with a very dangerous person right now. Crazy. And here, I really thought it's like, wow, okay, so we're just getting the crazy without any self-control, without any, you're just going to be a maniac. And even as I'm watching it, I'm going, I almost think it's like an insult to people with PTSD because it's so extreme. It's like, and I'm not saying that somebody can't be that extreme, that disorganized when suffering from an extreme case of PTSD, but then they aren't even able to get, they're either dead or they're in jail. Well, because they cannot, they're homeless. They can't, they just, the pressure without the support systems and that, they're not getting on a plane on their own with a passport to Vietnam. They're not getting through. The TSA would have locked him up. Like, he would have flipped out at the TSA. Never mind filling out a visa application for an American to go to goddamn Vietnam. So, there you go. To answer Shawshank, and I think there's a lot of, a lot of, not everyone, but a lot of critics, they can get lazy.
It's like confirmation bias.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. Back to the wine thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and maybe there's a perfect segue. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say,
Is there anything what I said that sounds crazy to you?
No.
Other than my own crazy manic.
No. He, I thought, okay, here, he's going to get it together. He's going to really, he's going to shine. And it became quite apparent, and I've seen this in a few movies, it was almost like he was not directed, and it was just like, go do your thing. There's actually a scene where he's splitting off from the rest of the group about 3/4 of the way through, and he sort of had it with all of them after being crazy about everything.
And his kid was shot.
Everything. He's crazy about everything, and then somebody turns around and he's right there, and he goes, you better not do that. And it's just like, is this becoming a horror movie? Like, he's everywhere and he knows everything and he knows every drop and he's paranoid and it's just so exhausting. And then he splits off from the rest of the group and
you're thinking, Oh, thank God! Like,
but it takes them 5 minutes. There's a held shot where two of the five bloods or two of the bloods are blurry and in the foreground, and he's walking into the forest, alternately crying and reciting Bible verse. I am my Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He layeth me down in green pastures. And he just and I thought, okay, that's good. And then 30 seconds later, I was like, okay, that's good. And then about 9 minutes later, I'm like, okay, time to cut the shot there, Spike. And it just goes on and on, and it really is unrestrained. Not to. It's almost anger is better displayed when it's almost controlled but not quite. You know what I mean? Here's the
surface, and you can see it. It's so close.
One of the best.
You can all of a sudden feel the tension and kind of. Yeah. Sorry, one of the best.
Apples and oranges. But one of the best sort of portrayals of anger I've seen was on television. It was Michael Moriarty and the old Law and Orders, and there was a couple cases that really got under his skin. And he would say something like, "This deal is open for 10 seconds, sir. 10 seconds." And you could just see, and like you would do that. You would sort of like the blood would drain from you. You'd be like, oh, and you'd have this, like, it would affect you. Like you knew he was mad and about to lose it, and he never did lose it. But it was so effective. And he's screaming and wailing and carrying on, and clearly not
to a point where it's getting boring and irritating.
Oh, and and
in the first act,
and takes over the movie. Quite frankly, takes over the whole movie.
Just
and
chews it all up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, now maybe it wasn't getting any direction. But I'm kind of wondering about that. And again, Shashank, Richard, Ahmed, Katie, tell us what you think. Like it's Spike Lee. So I'm kind of assuming, well, everyone's going to do what they're told because it's Spike Lee. I mean, Delroy is a big name. And if it was little old me directing, apparently that's what Spike wants to do. Or that's what Delroy wants to do. So I'm going to write around him now. I'm going to come up with a new movie or whatever. But yeah, I can only imagine, and this is kind of going back to these two writing teams, was this kind of crazy brought in later in a movie that was just never suited for it. It was not, they had a kind of a heist movie, maybe some politics, maybe some exploration of the Black African or the Black American experience in Vietnam, but mostly, we're talking about guys going to get gold. Or it's maybe something darker where they do but all of a sudden, maybe Spike gets a hold of it, says, no, it's going to be about this guy, and this is what I want you to do, and it's going to be real. I'm doing a terrible impression of Spike Lee. I'm going for more of a spiritual, a metaphorical.
Understandable.
But it's that kind of, and I want you to do it, and the other actors will just deal with it, and that'll be part of the drama, man. Whereas some of these other actors, I think, it's like, wow, okay, well, I guess we're all going to deal with him. And then we're going to do our own terrible direct, well, I don't know, like, was he just phoning it in? Like, even when the Dean, what's the guy, the American Express guy? Oh,
Eddie.
Eddie, thank you. When it's like, because someone's going to die. We're at the midpoint, and they found the gold. It's the false, it's that false win in the middle, and we're about to go into the crap.
I had in my notes who's going to be the first to step on a landmine. Like I knew that click. Oh shit!
Yeah, Well, the second he started backing up, I'm like, oh, you're a goner. But it took, back to what you're saying, it took forever. Like so many of these scenes were just, like you say, stuffed. With just too much, and they went too long while still sucking up air. back to, when you're talking, when you talk about breathing and there's like, no, there's no breath because the fucking, pardon my poor language, but the fucking actors are sucking it all up. And and I shouldn't say the actors. Delroy Lindo's sucking it all up. The rest have to scream to be heard at all, like, because it demands that response. Crazy.
Well, somebody like Clark Peters as Otis, he's from The Wire, right? And super low key. And I was sort of excited to see him in something a little more meaty as opposed to, the ensemble pieces that I've seen him in, or the supporting roles. So this one's a little bit meatier for him. The others, I didn't recognize. I think Norm Lewis is the man who played Eddie. I didn't necessarily recognize him, but I had seen Isaiah Whitlock in something else. Interestingly, just started yesterday. Sorry, I'm just checking this out. Jonathan Majors plays David, who is the Delroy Lindo's son. He's the lead of Lovecraft County, which started last night on HBO/Crave. And so, all of a sudden, like a lot of these things, when you see a young actor that you haven't seen before, all of a sudden he's in everything, And so it was kind of neat because he's very low key in Lovecraft County, and he's a bit of a different character here. But none
of them got enough air to give him real conflict because he's just sucking it all up. So folks, Restream is not giving us all the chats now, and I'm looking over at my kind of keeping an eye on YouTube, and it looks like, and I'm going to read these out as they came out, Jim, so we can kind of address them. Shashank makes an interesting comment. If you watch a movie for more than 2 minutes on Netflix, apparently it's counted as a view. I think, Shashank, that while they'll count it as a view, they're much like YouTube. They know when you bail out. They know how long you watch, and I think that goes into part of their review. I'm not 100% certain. Much like as Jim, my co-host, said, they never really release the details, but I think they do. They do kind of know when you're like, oh, okay, a lot of people are checking out at a certain time, and that would be wonderful to know. Shashank also comments, it just seemed like a mishmash of ideas. Couldn't agree with you more, Shashank. That's a big, just a goulash, but not in a tasty way.
And it's like they didn't choose. Like they didn't really. They sort of had it a bunch of ways. There's a scene. There's kind of the ending of Delroy Lindo. Paul, that's his name. The Trump-loving African American man with the MAGA hat. His story,
really,
his story ends pretty. Spoiler alert, of course. Spoiler zone. He's walking through the jungle, and all of a sudden, a snake gets thrown at him from off stage. And he's struggling with a snake. And then then there's something else happens. And the next, thank you. The next clip you see is him. He just sort of has trouble with his bag, and he ends up being thrown down a ravine, and his bag gets caught up, and he's sort of the bag's hanging over him. And there's a rope involved. And I thought for a second, are we entering Jack London territory? Is he going to be crushed to death by the gold? And I thought, that might actually be interesting.
Well, and that's again, like if they had decided to pick, okay, it's a dark tale of men who went for a good reason, but got overtaken by the gold.
Yeah.
Like you could have had a great story. Pretty much all the same people, a little less Delroy, crazy Delroy Lindo. Mm-hmm. And they knew it's like, we're never going to find the gold. Then they get there, because we're not going to find the gold. But we do know our guy, and where our guy is, we're going to go get his body. That's our goal here. And then imagine they get out there and all the same stuff, but they get out there and all of a sudden it's like the absolute lamest way of discovering the gold is he's digging for a crapper hole get bent. But
my character's going to go to the bathroom. Okay, roll a die 20. Why? Oh, I don't know. Rolls. It's a 20. You found gold. What?
That's exactly. But yeah, now imagine though, same way, but they've already decided the gold's gone. They're never going to find it. Then all of a sudden he's taking a crap in the woods. They find the gold, and that's where everything turns. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, we found this gold. Yeah, Norman. I guess we go Norman. And then all of a sudden they start eating on each other. Then all of a sudden you got a great movie, But if they're going out for the gold anyway, maybe you can have this Sierra Madre thing, but you got to dump some other stuff. Some of the things, and I'm gonna reading Richard. Richard made a couple of comments. As one, this is a good one. Richard, in my opinion, almost any movie that's 2.5 hours is in need of a good edit. And he goes on to say, especially one by a, quote, big director. And you're absolutely right. Yeah, these big directors, like big name authors, they don't get told. It's so hard for anyone to tell them no.
800 pages? That's great.
People will buy it anyway. Well, and even well, you know what? Let's put a pin in this. Netflix, and what are they really going for here, trying to get some of these folks? But Richard also goes on, The Irishman is another good example. Good movie, but one had I'm assuming what he means is one needed to have the guts to tell the director to cut it back. No one had the guts. It's Martin Scorsese, and so of course they went along with it. Jelly Duck does also have notwithstanding my opinion of his acting in this movie, Jean Reno, the corrupt French diplomat, fence double crosser, wearing a MAGA hat, which that seemed kind of funny.
You said he was doing an impression of what earlier? Or
a lazy impersonation. An incredibly lazy. I'm doing a television thing. Yeah, I'll be there for one day. Oh, we're going to the woods now. All right, well, I can't.
It was almost like he was sort of like the Sydney, the French version of a Sydney Greenstreet role from the old Bogey movies. I sort of, with the white suit and everything, that was something else. And some of his line readings, I wonder if he actually speaks English.
Well, he does though. Like he speaks English quite well. He's made some great English films. I mean, okay, here's another one. And Shashank, he's asking us a question. Rob and Jim, do you believe that when directors need to make a statement, and that's my emphasis, they just lose all sense of perspective and objectivity? Not always, but in certain cases like this. I'm kind of half and half on that one. What do you think, Jim?
Well, objectivity, there's all these, if you ever work for a student newspaper, you're kind of aware of the fact that merely covering a story shows that you're open to covering a story which suggests a certain kind of bias in the first place. So, yeah, I mean, take from that what you will. You're pretty deep into it. And I think, too, that there's a lot of... there's Black Lives Matter stuff in here. There's a lot of the Black experience in America here. So yeah, he's very close to the material. And how old is he now? I think he's a little bit older than me, so maybe he even lived through some of it. But I think I don't think he's the most objective director. But that's a good thing in his case a lot of the times. So, Rob? Oh. Continue?
Yes. No. I think... Oh, now I'm good. I think what Shashank might be referring to partly is Shashank did a review of The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, okay.
Which is partly why I'm mushing it up. And he makes some interesting points in there. But anyway, back to Shashank's comment on our stream. I wonder what he means is when he says objectivity means, it's the, you make a movie and you're seeing it in, it's all working out wonderfully. Then you put it in front of an audience and you get, this is how people are seeing it. And I think that may be, well, and Shashank, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong or if I totally got this off base in the chat. And we are keeping an eye on our YouTube stream, so we will see it. Swear to goodness. But I think that's an interesting point. Yeah, I'm kind of half and half. Like, it's funny. So in this chat the other day with our instructor, actually, and I was thinking about this as we're doing this. The point I had made in the chat, it's comparing, like Martin Scorsese as a teacher versus an Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin is a television writer, has run writers' rooms. So all of a sudden, you've got to defend your ideas. And I'm not saying Aaron Sorkin in a writer's room would probably be a little more reticent to say, well, boss, I think that's a terrible idea. But it's still kind of the nature of a writer's room to sort of talk up ideas, beat them up, see if anything's good is coming out. Directors have no equivalent. Yeah. And so I think a director like him, when he's making this movie, there's just not enough people around. And if he doesn't look for, all of a sudden a director at that level has got to go look for that feedback. And he's got to go beyond the people who earn a living off of him or earn a living on the same thing he's earning a living on. I'm not saying that the crew is earning a living off of him. He needs the crew. But, it becomes a lot harder. And I think that, so to answer your question, or to maybe not answer it, Shashank, but at least to kind of give you something, and love to hear what you think of this, is maybe what they do is, it's not, a director should make a statement. It's a movie. It's never just a movie. You are making a statement. There's themes. There's something you want to talk about. You should make a statement. You should be committed to a vision. I think what you need to do, though, and especially the bigger you get, the less reliable your own eye on the product is. You have a lot of instinct and good instinct, but you do have to kind of take your head out of your own ASS and go search for other opinions that you respect. But people will say, I don't see that. I don't think that's going to work. Wait, you want Delroy to do what? Terrible idea. You know? I mean, mind you, though, who knows? Maybe in 5 years, I look at this movie, we all look at this movie again. The critics were right. 5 years, everyone's talking about it as this genius. We just don't get it. I don't believe that. But I guess that's possible. Let me, Jim, I wanted to ask you a couple other, okay, first of all, just, hey, before we get into this, one more light thing before we get even heavier. But first, let's just remind everyone.
The big three.
That's right, brother. Honestly, folks, just a shameless bit of self-promotion here. You know what? If you could subscribe, and ring-a-ding the bell, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So Jim, first on the lighter end, so there's what is that young woman's name? Help me out here. Melanie Thierry. She's there. She introduces herself as Hetty, and then she said, Hetty Bouvier. Be honest now, very important here. Same to everyone in the chat. When you hear Hetty Bouvier, are you thinking Marge Simpson or Jackie Kennedy Onassis?
Well,
come on, Jim. What did you first think when you saw that
Marge.
part? Yeah.
Marge, obviously. Yeah,
exactly.
And it's so funny. It's like, hey, French lady, what's your name? Hetty. oh, they didn't give me a name in the script. I don't know, Bouvier.
Who knows? Maybe by then she'd been so fed up. It's like, yeah, I am not going to be the strong woman character I thought I'd be.
No.
I'm going to get captured right away.
I'm the girl in the cellar in 1917. I'm the... What's the other one? There was a Dunkirk. There was one woman in it. Oh, I can't remember now.
But
women, all these war movies...
mother-daughter in Fury.
Yes. We're the two women in this whole, or the one woman in this whole thing. The funny thing about that whole exchange.
Jelly Duck's being honest. He says Mark Simpson.
The funny thing about this whole exchange goes like, she goes, "My name is Eddie, like Eddie Lamar." And or Hetty, that's my attempt to anyway. Hetty, and he kind of has a blank, star from the 40s or 30s or even, so he doesn't get it. And then within about 2 minutes, she references Patty Hearst, and is this Mr. Burns that he's trying to pick up, or what? Like she's got all these anachronistic kind of references that I don't think the David character picked up on.
Well, that's a great point. Like, I mean, there are a few things going on there that kind of, now to get a little deeper, that almost bothered me, and I'd love to hear what you think, Jim. One, it's like, okay, it sounds like this is a college-educated kid, Black Studies major or something, African American Studies major, I believe was the specific reference, and it's like, are you playing him dumb? Like, is that what we're going for here? Like, which goes to the whole crew's behavior in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Like, and a part of me is like, are you really playing them as ugly Americans? Like, and how many Apocalypse Now references do we need? Oh my God. That's actually why I was like, I bet you Spike is going, like he's a buddy. I bet you Spike's going for the Kennedy, the Jackie O reference. Okay. It is chock full of Apocalypse Now and other, like the soundtrack,
Flight of the Valkyries.
But even some of the more, like you hear the trumpets and that's like, I think that's Hamburger Hill or maybe Platoon. No, I think it more early 80s, late 70s, Hamburger Hill or one of those. Like
Hamburger Hill.
Yeah,
that's a good deep cut.
I was in the militia in the 80s. Of course, I saw every Vietnam War movie. It was, in the 80s really were the heyday for late 78, like Deer Hunter on down. Yeah. The Boys in Company C. Mm-hmm. That is the actual, there is the other soundtrack reference I was looking for. Yeah. But it's almost... like he's kind of shoving them in there, and it's even with Eddie Bouvier, where that's right out of the not the remake, the new cut with all that added footage of Apocalypse Now Redux.
Oh yeah, that's right too.
They come into, and all of a sudden they have this moment with this French
plantation.
French plantation.
His ghostly French plantation.
And she's referring to and
I had forgotten
meanwhile, the Vietnamese, there's the two women with the jolly kind of, he's getting drunk, Eddie. So you got Eddie.
Isaiah Whitlock, what was his name? Melvin.
Thank you, Melvin. And it's almost like, oh my God, are we playing these women as hookers? Like, what's going on here? Like, and again, yet another movie that does not pass the Bechdel test, and no way is
not applicable.
I don't believe it. It didn't even play the restream thing. Yeah, but it could have been applicable. Could have been. It's set now.
Yeah.
I mean, they have less of an excuse than the other one. But then what's the one I kind of ranted about? A futile and stupid gesture. Mm-hmm. Oh, and everybody, I did do a review. Check it out. There will be a link in the description later. Enough self-promotion.
No.
But there's there's problematic things, not just, but in the way it deals with race. It's like these characters, not only nonsensical. There's that scene early where they're in the bar where, and Shashank, if you're still in the chat here, we got to talk about crossing the line of action at a later date. But not only was it shot weirdly, and I just think lazily, poorly, it crosses the line of action so many times, but also it's a modern city. No bar is going to let some poor amputee beggar child into the bar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a shameless reference to, I believe it was in either, I'm thinking either Platoon,
okay,
or there was another one. It reminds me of, where are we here? Platoon or, sorry, Jim, I'm just looking for my Platoon or Casualties of War, where it's like an obvious reference to that where they're making the crippled victim of war dance.
Yeah.
And then Delroy Lindo's crazy. Immigrants. What are you talking? You're in their country.
Yeah.
It's not that whole scene was never going to happen. It's just like jamming in an old Vietnam War movie reference, but without any proper context. And at times I'm like, yeah, Spike, I would not question your knowledge, your depth of knowledge of like the very facts of the black experience in the United States. But yeah, I'm wondering if you ditched, you spent all your time learning that and nothing, or maybe much like, that's terrible to abuse this, but much like a lot of Americans, history ends at your American experience. Like the whole rant about the French in World War II, it's like, well, at least finish the job. The Americans were the one, the Americans, the British are the ones who propped up de Gaulle right after. Everyone liked a right-winger. They didn't arrest all the Vichy. They're like, no, you can stay in government. It's all good. We're all cool. Don't go, we saved you, and then not finish the history lesson, right?
Yeah.
I think, and so it becomes more than problematic. It's like, well, what the hell, man? Because it kind of takes away the other parts of the really overt expository history lessons we get.
Oh my gosh!
They called us this word. It's like,
well, and I get that he uses the still photograph that's thrown on screen to at various odd points in the movie. That's part of his energy. So that's that's what it is.
The worst,
but it's like people are trying to out trivia. What's that?
the runner, like the hurdler.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Edwin Moses. It's like it's trivia night at the Apollo or something, and they're each like, "Hey, did you know this? Hey, did you know this? Oh, this guy flew a biplane in World War I." I just make that up, but and it's just like, how many times is somebody going to give somebody an interesting fact in the middle of something that? It almost reminds me of Trump saying, a lot of people didn't know Lincoln was a Republican. Yeah, they did. I knew it. I'm Canadian. It's not even my history. Anyway, but it's this like there's this trivia guy sort of buried in, and every once in a while he wants to throw out something on the screen, and it's so awkwardly done, but that's I guess part of the package. I was going to say about making the David, the child of Delroy Lindo's Paul, seem dumb. There's one shot where he first gets to the hotel room, and the other guys are like, "What? WTF? Are you kidding me?" That he's coming along, and he's sort of sitting down. He's got a hat on.
He looks like 5 years old.
Yeah, and it's done from a high angle, and the other guys are shot from a low angle. And that reminded me of old Spike Lee. That one shot, it's almost like that series of commercials he did with the Nike and with the...
Well, it goes right back to the do the right thing, though, in those angles. And it's almost like was this an avatar for a younger Spike Lee who would have played the role if it was 30 years ago? He might have played the role of David. If he was making a younger... And I did. That was the one character entrance, the one character establishment where I'm like, oh, I could like this guy. Just because in the way that he's just, he's not putting up with his old man's crap, and he's not, he's even, in a weird way, the power is reversed. Yeah, you're right. Because it's a whole bunch of hero shots looking up at the guys. There are a ton of those shots of them four standing there, nobly or, standing tough, and the shot's lower, it's looking up, they're there 4 or 5 across, and then this is where the power is reversed, and it was a kind of cool moment.
Yeah.
To be destroyed immediately afterwards.
And then it's all, it wants this whole thing to be about nobility, and okay, so There's a couple things that are problematic here. There's a couple nice touches too. There's a couple good scenes when David steps on the landmine.
I can actually put up a couple. They're finally. There you go. Some of them are finally
landed. When David gets pulled off the landmine, that was actually a well done scene. And then they wreck it by tying the French landmine, French, Finnish, and American. That was really, and I know he's paranoid, but that just didn't, and then tie him up and then string him up from a tree. I'm like, anyway. So there's so many problematic things. At the end, one of the characters throws himself on a grenade that nobody is around. He's literally not doing it for nothing. There's how do you kill 40 people? At the same time, carrying, and I did the math, 10,000 pounds of gold, and fence the gold, and cover up the deaths, including French international, many probably local Vietnamese, diplomat, and repatriate American remains. Where did you find these? Well, we found them in this valley. Who made up the crew? 3 guys, but they all died violently. You don't need to know about that. And so they actually reclaim it. They show his remains being brought back. Those are all processes. So if you're going to build this in reality, this wasn't a fantastical kind of wacky cannonball run kind of adventure. This was supposed to be a realistic movie. Yeah. They literally had 2 firefights, and maybe it didn't kill 40 people. Maybe it was more like 20. But there were 20 corpses, 10,000 pounds of gold, 1 set of repatriated remains, and and the scene after the battle is all them back at home cutting checks to each other.
Well, and that's what there's, and this is why I really think there was actually the DNA of 2 movies here.
Yes, I agree. Yeah,
one that was a pretty straightforward heist,
and a good one
with some meaning.
Yeah,
and one a Treasure of the Sierra Madre mixed in with the horrors of the horrors that veterans can still face 40, 50 years down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally buying that. Look at Jelly Duck. I wonder if he's was it when the landmine killed Eddie or
and took all of his limbs? That was actually genuinely a horrifying scene.
It was immediately horrifying. Okay, it was horrifying until it looked like horror.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Yeah, too brightly lit. Too much on that. After a while, a couple of moments of horrific, and then it's is this the Evil Dead?
Yeah.
Even so blood's pumping out, and it's almost like a. It's okay, I'm.
More blood, more blood, kid. How do you say that in Vietnamese? And then the Seppo, when the Seppo character. And how many times does a Finn make it into a Spike Lee movie? As a Finn.
Oh, Shawshank. As a Finn. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in Black Klansman, as was the other mine crew member, and his name is Paul Walter Hauser as Simon. He's been in tons of stuff. He was in that Clint Eastwood movie, and he was in Black Klansman as well. Anyway, we're given to believe somebody says off screen, like he just he gets shot while he steps on a landmine, and then somebody says,
while
he's just disappeared. So that was one of these evaporating mines, evidently, or laser mines. I don't know, but there's literally nothing left of him.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like it and especially now for those folks who think maybe we're being too hard about, expecting it to make sense at the end, they started it that way. They had paperwork to go get his remains.
Yeah,
remember they had visas, even the Vin character, I think his name was Vin. He was like, "Are you sure? You should have a guide. Here's all your stuff. Like, you sure you don't want? Here, I'll call emergency services right now, because it's a real country." And that's what I mean about there's parts of this where it's like it's not necessarily offensive, but I don't know, borderline kind of. Whoa, Spike, you're being a little like, it was like kind of, black or Caucasian is still Americans wandering around. Like, even early, I get why they had it. They're trumping out into the bush, and they're walking through somebody's field. A very iconic image, fits the genre expectations. But here's the thing, except that it's done in today where there's other farmers, and the kid, "Hello, sir." It's like, no, maybe a parent would have been, "What are you doing on my land? Can you move along? Why are you here at least?" Something when some foreigners just start wandering around, like maybe a ringy, it's like, no, we have cell phones here. And that wasn't the only one. It was just one that kind of stuck out in my eye, where it's anachronistic and but meanwhile, they did have some moments where it's almost like, oh, we have to acknowledge the Vietnamese were people and that they suffered too. So just before they shoot a bunch of them, like this is I cut it out in the synopsis, but just before they shoot a bunch of them, the crew back in the day, there was what could have been a really nice little moment where you hear the Vietnamese, and we actually get subtitles. Just soldiers talking to each other, and one's talking about and gets to start the poem that he got from his wife. And it was like, and then they shoot them like video game characters. Never a thing said, never once acknowledging that, hey, they're our enemy, but, well, you got to go back to the videotape of Muhammad Ali actually going to jail, because and he did. What could have been an even greater career was cut short because he really did say, stick it, man. And that's not. I don't think that was really acknowledged, and at times, even when it was acknowledged, there'd be a scene shortly after, or maybe even within the same scene, where some offensive thing or kind of an unaware, unself-aware thing. Again, going back to that kid in the bar at the beginning, and then he throws fireworks at them, which would be offensive, except it was such unintentional comedy. As I looked up their ages, Eddie's the youngest of the group, the Eddie character, Fudge.
Norm Lewis. He's the youngest of them all. They're all actually playing to proper age here. The other three, which is 65, 68. So when they hit the deck, they really did look like some old men going, okay, knees, careful. Which made it even harder to buy that they're humping around out in the bush. It's almost like it was
throwing some gold in their back.
And then the throwing out the OxyContin, he's having because he's got hip issues. Like, do you really want to do that? But the opioids, that's current, isn't it? But it was. There's a line.
And he doesn't even look like an addict. It's not like he's.
Yeah.
Let the crazy man that obviously, fundamentally, like he's unhinged now. Not, he's suffering from PTSD, absolutely. But when it gets all weird about the gun, they go, here, you can have it. Yeah, that makes sense. But the guy who presents does not present as an addict, and he is in his late 60s, and they're all, oh, you better give that to us. Which is the only drug reference when the numbers of heroin addicts out in the field was so high that the military is like, oh, we're going to have a huge problem when they come back. Of course, they come back, they're not around their buddies just trying to get through war, and they stop shooting up heroin. It was like, it was kind of fascinating. Oh, even the baby killer myth, and it is a myth. No one was calling soldiers baby killers. That was not a thing. That was a construct. That was a right-wing construct of the late 70s and the 80s with the same fantasy of, and this is so weird. They have that one weird myth that they don't debunk, that they actually lean into, and then they beat up on the other myth, like there was, Vietnam, missing MIA. Remember that? That was another 80s thing. Yeah, I mean, so sorry, I went on a big rant.
No, my turn now to go on a rant.
Yes, please, Jim. Please.
What's that?
Please.
A fairly quick one here, but number one, was it nice to see? Nice is I'm trying not to use the word nice. Was it worthwhile to watch a movie about the Black American experience in Vietnam? Absolutely. Are there more stories out there? Absolutely. Did it need more white characters? It's funny, in the first firefight, you see all these white guys get it.
Yeah.
and pretty just by headshots and things like that.
Like they're stormtroopers.
Yeah. And it'd be like, hey, Cody, are you okay? Or whatever the name. Yeah. Hey, Chad.
Tex.
Anyway.
It'd be Tex.
Tex, yeah.
Tulsa.
Stretch. So was it I
Hillbilly Hank.
I don't want to say enjoyed, but it was. I like having the option to watch a movie about the Black Vietnamese experience. I guarantee you there are tons of stories about things that African American soldiers have done, just like there are Japanese Canadians in the First World War, First Nation soldiers here. Joseph Boyd has written a bit about them. So basically, for lack of a better term, the minority war story. There is, I read stuff all the time, and I think, how is this not a movie? So there's that. And to have 5, including Chadwick Boseman, who we haven't even mentioned yet. It was great to see them all in action.
But I mentioned him. He was the Black Panther member.
Oh, okay, yeah. I couldn't remember if we had.
No, we haven't actually discussed
and here you
him
go.
Yeah.
And here you go with the Spike Lee stuff over movies is overstuffed. Yeah, there's tons to talk about, so I'll give him that. But did it really bring anything new to the story of Vietnam? No. And I have to say that opening montage, a couple weeks ago we had the opening, and as awkward as it was, an opening montage for The Road Warrior, describing basically how the world went down.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things, during which, and I don't think I mentioned it on the cast there, was it shows somebody actually getting shot in the back and a hat popping off. Like that looked to be real footage. But in any case, with this one, the Vietnamese one, even the opening montage, they showed us things that we've already seen. That old shot of the helicopter being pushed off.
Iconic.
There's an art to doing montages, and the art, I'm pretty sure, doesn't say just show the same stuff they've been showing for 40 years. And there was tons of shots. There was a African American speaker, and he was interesting. I could have listened to him more, but there wasn't, Michael Moore's done them, and all kinds of other artists.
We've all seen them in every movie about the era.
Exactly. Like, and they make fun of that in with The Simpsons, occasionally, it's like, it was 1986, new Coke had just been released, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And they'll go on like that, but it's that same, the helicopter being pushed off, the monks lighting themselves on fire, the scaling the roof to the embassy. Find some other shots, so. And that was sort of a trigger.
Or find another way to do it.
Yeah. That opening montage, I thought, I've seen a lot of this before. And I didn't necessarily think, ergo, this movie's going to be bad. But
no.
And it was like that for the rest of the movie.
To me, now, it's the best part of the movie.
Yeah. Well, it got almost no new... There was no... I mean, the reason why you tell something is it hasn't been told before. So, yeah, this is about the Black experience in Vietnam. I'm all for that. I'd line up for that in an instant.
Yeah, I was excited
really
about watching this. Yeah.
This one didn't.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I was just going to say. I was just going to conclude that this one there wasn't, unless I'm missing it, and I could. I'm a middle-aged white dude. It didn't strike me that there was anything terribly new that was said here about that experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jim. And again, I'd even go further. There is 3 great movies. And I was excited to sit down and watch this. I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. It's going to be well made. It's
gritty.
It's Spike Lee. Mm-hmm. It's a cool idea. They're going back for the gold. Then there's and again, back to that over stuff. Oh, but for reparations. Okay, what does that mean? Of course, now, mind you, the adult in me is like, you guys let's all make sure you all agree what that means.
Yeah.
But then they all kind of change their mind anyway. And then they the one guy is like, maybe we should go back to the original vision. Mm-hmm. Blows himself up conveniently so they can keep the gold.
Yeah.
Well, then make a movie about them getting the gold and doing what they needed to do. But they could have done, a Kelly's Heroes, which would have been awesome. Either set in the time or, again, oh my God, I think we can actually get this. And all of a sudden it becomes a heist. Yeah. And then as they go along, as it goes further and further sideways, they keep having to get more and more people involved, which I do. The Kelly's Heroes is just one of the best and one of the most subtly subversive anti-war movies. It really was kind of brilliant. A whole bunch of experienced soldiers just going, that was Clint Eastwood.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Getting together a posse, and then they basically had 100 miles past the front to get gold. That's what it was. Or it could have been a very dark, again, I think I came up with a better movie right on the stream going, they weren't going to get the gold until they found the gold. Then all of a sudden everything changes and all of a sudden they all go crazy, right?
Yeah.
But then that means they all got to die in the end. And you got to suck that up. You got to go, everyone died. Maybe the girl gets out. Maybe, but you got to be dark. You can't, and this is there's 2 movies there fighting with each other. Yeah. And, or at least he's, I like the idea of, Delroy Lindo, fuck, somebody shut him up. Pardon my poor language.
Oh my gosh. I was praying for that, just, man. Dial it back to 11 or something.
For the love of God.
Oh my God.
Just shut up.
And I expected, and the whole thing, the father and son relationship. You're not my son. You never were my son.
Oh, the
5 minutes later,
old man.
Oh, I love you. I love you so much.
Yeah.
Do you have any more gum? No. Oh, I hate you. You're not my son. Get out of my sight. And it was just if that's how you, that's not how fatherhood works. You don't get to,
Well, it is how an abusive father works.
That's true.
I mean, it's pretty accurate for that. But then the son doesn't go force himself upon him. He's dragged along.
Oh yeah.
It's Jelly Duck chiming in here. Many deaths in the Jelly Duck.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, and even the shot of the last. Okay, here's another thing. in when you're doing something like playing Dungeons and Dragons, and you meet
Folks, I love it when Jim says, "Here's another thing." Let us get back to that. Okay, your cue. Here's another thing.
Yeah, when you're playing something like Dungeons and Dragons and you come upon, I don't know, 20 goblins, you kill 15 of them. The other 5, depending on the rolls, will run away. They realize that the battle's futile, they're losing, you're more heavily armed than they are, so they're gone. In this one, Jean Reno has just seen everybody, all his henchmen cut down. So what does he do? He charges the temple. I guess his vehicle was, but there's still a way out. Like, these guys aren't murderers. So he grabs a grenade and he grabs a pistol. And then he's about to kill the last remaining blood.
What does he think? He's a Dien Bien Phu? And it's like, I will be...
Yeah.
There's a historical reference
so he's about to kill the last...
think Spike Lee is aware of.
Yeah.
Sorry, he's about to kill the last of.
He's about to kill Clark Peters. He's got him down on the ground, Otis, I guess, and he's got him down, and a shot rings out, and it's that, how many movies do we see this in? It wasn't his gun, it was somebody from elsewhere shooting bad guy in the head. And then the camera pans up in wonder to show David, Delroy Lindo's son, holding the gun, not believing that he's taken a life, and that so many times. You're looking down, you expect one gun to go off, the other gun goes off, and the guy's been shot in the back. In this case, Jean Reno's been shot in the eye. That's lazy. That's lazy filmmaking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this just seems, like you said before, rushed, slack, lazy. Jelly Duck just came up with an idea, the father-o-meter. And given the movies, how many times we've seen just crappy fathers that seem to do okay anyway, or get way too many chances. Yeah. Jelly Duck, we may need a father-o-meter. I think that's a great idea. Shashank is saying, I just couldn't connect with this film. It doesn't sound like Jim didn't. I certainly couldn't.
I wanted to.
I suspect you're not alone here. Yeah, as did I. I think that's part of why I was, in some ways, kind of upset. It's like, but I was really expecting this to be good. Yeah. I'll just have to comfort myself with the memory of Dolomite Is My Name, which I really really, even now, I have a soft spot for that flick.
Go watch Black Klansman again. That's, for...
maybe I should. Well, I'm going to continue to enjoy his Dark Materials, which is like, I'm going to continue to enjoy that. But
or Lovecraft Country.
What were some of the other, was there any other movies that you saw in here?
Oh, definitely.
What come to mind? Some of the other flicks you saw in it?
Sort of. Not entirely, but there was, in a very shallow way, Deliverance, where you have sort of 4 guys that are woefully unprepared, one guy with a bit of an anger issue. It wasn't a carbon carbon copy.
No, that's an interesting note. Yeah,
Deliverance was one where you have just the city dwellers. I don't want to say urban types because that's got sort of underpinnings of other, but just big guys who live in the city going into the jungle. What could happen in a jungle? It's just, what could go bad?
Yeah.
But in a haunted jungle.
But in this one, it was just their own incompetence and they brought the crazy with them. In Deliverance, it was like, Deliverance is just such a better movie, and I don't think that's a great movie. It had some really jarring scenes and imagery, but I wouldn't. No one puts it on a top 100 list. Even I certainly wouldn't.
I do have to give him props though for knocking off 3/4 of the remaining Bloods. Like they do. They do kill off 3 of the 4 guys, and that's it's not one of those movies where one guy who's usually weak or has some when Delroy Lindo's Paul character reveals with about 20 minutes left There was one neat mechanism where two people are sort of talking about Paul, and they're saying he talks to himself all the time. So he's gone mad, he's wandering through the forest, and he does this thing where he talks to the camera. I guess ostensibly, he's talking to himself. He's like, oh, that's the last time you underestimate old Paul, that kind of thing. Yeah. But he also, malignant, what does that even mean? So, okay, so he's got cancer. He's dying anyway. Right? And, now, God forbid that he does something useful with that. Oh, you didn't see that? You didn't make it that far?
No, that I didn't make. Like, I knew he... Like, and again, this is one of those ones, because it's lazy storytelling, the failure of it's like, he had something to do with that, with Chadwick Boseman's death. There was a weird fight or an accident. Yep. And then later on, it was an accident. But of course you killed him. It's been eating you alive. Like, everyone should have said, so, you and Norman, what's the deal? I shouldn't be able to... I mean, yes, you and I have made a bit of a study of it, but it shouldn't be that goddamn easy to early on in the first act go, all right, we know what the drama is here,
and that's the best kind of that's the best kind of movie, is that when there's 20 minutes left, you're like, I have no idea how they're going to wrap this up. Sometimes it's satisfying to watch a movie, know how it wraps up, and only on a sort of on a certain level,
a bit of an ego level,
which involves your own superiority. That.
But this is not. But even in that scenario, you feel like you won something. This was not a win. This is like beating a kid at checkers. Sorry, continue.
I was just going to say exactly that. But and Delroy Lindo's death. So not only does he have, and this is going to lead to another question. Not only does his death, it's coming anyway. So he's got some form of cancer. The only thing that was missing was the single cough 5 minutes into the movie. What's wrong? Oh, it's nothing. Or the washroom scene where he spits into the sink and there's a white sink and you see a little trail of blood, or the bloody handkerchief, Yeah. Anyway. Exactly. And he hides it from other people.
Because that's why cancer always works.
That's not a bloody handkerchief. But so his death doesn't even serve a purpose. They make him dig his own grave. He sort of sings some Marvin Gaye song, which was another nice thing, actually, was all the Marvin Gaye. It was good. Especially one off track where it's just an isolated voice recording of a song, no backing music, which was super cool. Anyway.
I'm sorry, the Ride of the Valkyries was so burned into, like, it was louder than it was in Apocalypse Now.
And it was for a boat.
Some tourists. Even the chasing after the runners. That was a thing in Apocalypse Now. Later on down the river when they're all going. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. They just decide he sings a song and then he shoot him. He doesn't take them out. He doesn't, like, it serves no function. He doesn't distract them and save his son. It's just, he gets shot like, Scarface was another one I was going to say, because they even have, is that the stinking badges quote? We don't need no stinking badges. Is that Scarface? Help me out here.
Why do I think it's actually like a Western quote in,
But anyway,
sorry.
Paul's got kind of a Scarface
when you're dealing with the federales.
Yeah, when he gets shot a bunch of times and
at the very end.
Yeah. So my thing is, so there's usually rules there's usually rules about who dies in a movie. So my theory is that Clark Peters
and Otis's reason why they die.
So it's sort of set up ahead of time. It can be the cough, meaning that they're ill. It can be sacrificing himself for his son, which didn't happen. It can be in this movie.
No, it didn't at all. No redemption for him. He had no redemption. He had to have a conversation with a ghost. In other words, he says, for all the shitty things I've done, I will now forgive myself. It's
killed by the gold. He's fording a river. It's too deep. He doesn't want to get rid of the gold. He drowns. That would have been perfect. Instead of just this weird ending.
The Jack London thing where it crushes them.
Exactly. You took my sugar, and they both axe each other. But anyway, So my theory is that the Clark Peters Otis character lives because he realizes that he's got a daughter with this Vietnamese woman that he meets briefly and sort of, and then he says, "Is that ours?" And she says, "Yes." And that's, I didn't know at the time, but I afterwards I'm thinking, well, maybe he was kept alive so they can actually develop a relationship. I mean, there's sort of there's mechanisms at work here, but
he's either, I think he's a character that either dies when it's really getting dark, like that.
The conscience of the group.
The conscience of the group dies, and that's when they really go downhill. Yeah, the voice of reason dies, and they go really crazy, like because there's that conflict that was set up right at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
With the gun.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And so that would have been great. Or he's got to live, and maybe live by killing Delroy Lindo as much as he doesn't want to because he's a maniac. Or Delroy Lindo, like Boromir, goes, I've gone crazy. I will sacrifice myself to save everyone else.
That's an excellent comparison, Boromir and
but no, none of those things. His death had no meaning.
You don't simply walk into Vietnam and take the gold.
Delroy Lindo's death, Paul's character's death had no meaning. You could have almost, for all the trouble he causes, he could have ditched that character and had a better movie.
Yeah.
You could have ditched him or... again, if he would even make it. Yeah, because you're right. It's set realistically. And this is part of what bothers me about this guy. It's like he would not be able to get his shit together to get into Vietnam.
And what does he do at stateside? Like, what has he been doing for 40 years? Go ahead.
Wasn't there, like, at the beginning, I almost got the impression, was he in jail for a bit? Or... because there was an interplay. I want to go back and actually listen to it, have even have the subtitles on, and just watch that interplay, that first interplay between him and his son.
Yeah.
But there was kind of you don't want to go back to something, and a part of me going, oh, okay, that, he's showing all these signs of being crazy. Maybe he was in jail,
Yeah. That's true. But he had enough money to cover the cost of the like he didn't want the Eddie to credit card his way for him. Like he wanted to pay for it himself. So
although the other two had no problem. Like the other two more, let's say, secure.
Yeah,
we're like kind of. Well, he wants to pay, sure. The reasonable guy, Otis, the reasonable guy, the voice of reason's like. He did not. He puts his hand on Paul's shoulder. It's like, relax, man. He wants to pay.
The
reasonable man would let the rich guy pay.
That's my other favorite thing about this movie is the constant talk about shares. Is that we split it 5 ways, except he gets a share. Well, he gets half of my share. I'll pay the other 8% of the 6th share. And then the other two get $500,000 each. It just it went on and on.
Lazy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You'd have to almost get a calculator out. It's like, okay, 2% of, is that like 2% of it all or 2% less his 20%? But even that part, like when they're arguing, like it's another tell that he's gonna die is that he's the one effing up the deal.
Yeah.
And by then I had so detested the Paul character that I was like, when Gene Reno's like, all right, I was like, he's going to rip you off and I'm okay with that. He should rip you off. You're going to get ripped off and you deserve it. The other guys, not so much, but there he is. It's like the guy's explaining, this is the way this works. Don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like
speaking of calculators, I actually did get mine out. So at one point, and I just redid the calculation. They said 17 million. No, they said because I wanted to figure how many gold bars they had.
Yeah.
So they said it's 17 million at 45,000 a crack. There are 17 million dollars here of gold bars.
Yeah.
So I divided 17 million by 45,000. I got 337. There are 337 gold bars. Gold bars are apparently 30 pounds each. And these look like smaller ones, I have to say.
Yeah, no, they're...
So if you multiply 30 by 330, basically it's 10,000 pounds of gold.
It's a ton of weight. It's a ridiculous... Like there's
clink,
math
clink.
done. There's math done wrong because there certainly isn't 5 tons in that one case.
Yeah.
Right. So the math is wrong somewhere. Still, you know, like, and that's one part you could say, who cares? Why I think this is important, Jim. Important to you and important to our many viewers is, and I need to take the whole screen to underline this, you know it's a bad movie when somebody is reduced to... I'm going to do the math on that. Something's not making any sense here. What is the current price of gold? What is the typical weight? Okay, a bar is this. Sure, they're smaller. That you're doing that instead of watching the movie... You know, that's the big takeaway after the movie, not, wow, I'm going to dive deeper into the history of it. You know, sometimes you kind of go, okay, that's obviously BS, but boy, it was good. And it draws you in, not to do math. Oh, set up a spreadsheet. None of this makes sense.
Did anything
that says everything we need to know about this movie.
Did anything take you out of the movie? No, except for 5 minutes I felt I needed to do some mathematical calculations. But other than that, it was, I was totally in.
I was totally riveted. Edge of my seat. Or what did they say? It was, what's the line about edge of your seat?
Oh, it was the Saturday Night Live Downton Abbey promo. And they said, I was constantly on the back of my seat.
All right. With that said, I mean, I think that one of the great things about this movie, one of the great things about what we're doing here, at least for me, Jim, is this is how you can get value out of a movie that's otherwise a stinker.
Oh yeah.
And I would say this is a stinker, not total crap, but it's, you know, to let's put Shawshank, just couldn't connect with this film.
Yeah, exactly.
No truer word said, Shawshank. That's
would have been a very quick podcast. So what do you think? Couldn't connect. All right, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Next week, Wizard of Oz. Okay, bye. We're out of here.
But that is part of the great. Shawshank. Well, I'll wait until it comes in our thing to see if it is, but Shawshank just put up another comment. But one of the great things about I think this adds value to what's otherwise a bad film experience, because you can both we can all commiserate on what was wrong with this movie, and also to kind of go, I do. You know what, before we go, like, Jim, okay, so Shawshank just chimed in again. He's if the narrative is great, like, let us say a film like Die Hard, and that was a solid, probably the first real action movie. You know, it really kind of invented a whole genre.
It did. It was new and fresh, and, you know, fallible leading man, and
and had to. Yeah, fallible, not a Superman, no magical, like it wasn't an adventure. Several hours, regular schmo. Absolutely right. So if the narrative is great, like, let us say a film like Die Hard, a very different film, absolutely. You know, Shawshank's absolutely right. I wouldn't mind the bad logic. You know, just some of the math when you look at a movie like that, where you go, I don't think gold's worth that much. You might say it. Or the bearer bonds or whatever. Who cares? It's the excuse to get the action going.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, I'm so bored anyway. wonder how much that gold must weigh. That gold must weigh a lot, and they're pretty old. And they've been wandering out in the hills for a few days. And they're totally apt. Yeah, no, couldn't. You're absolutely right, Shashank. Jim, let me ask you another question. If you were to, here's something I was kind of blown away. We touched on it briefly, but where was, and I really mean this, like, I mean, so there's the weird references to OxyContin later, but yeah, where was the drug use or even references to drug use? Like, it's just, was this the only dry squad in all of Vietnam?
Yeah.
Not just keeping itself dry, but so dry that they don't even refer to it.
Yeah,
And it's just, nope. We're a drug-free zone. Go ahead, yeah.
Otis got enough crap from Paul just by seemingly legitimately hooking up with a Vietnamese woman. Like, that seemed like I don't know if she was on the side or if he had a marriage back at home, but they kept on referring to her as a prostitute. I sort of don't think she was, but I could have been wrong. That's how she said people referred to her afterwards, after she gave birth to this.
Well, but I think she was already a sex trade worker then. And so later it's a sex trade worker with a mixed race child. Okay. That is the way I read that. But again, I mean, you're sleeping with a hooker.
Yeah.
In the early 70s, young man, money. Yeah, no. How are these women?
Stress.
If they were also, pure, there wouldn't be there wouldn't be sex trade workers in Vietnam during wartime.
It made me laugh.
Yeah,
I
can't even say that with a straight face.
It reminded me
what
of that.
Follows? Who are the camp followers?
Yeah.
Sex trade workers and drug dealers. Those are, two businesses that do booming business during wartime.
It reminded me of that controversy with, I think they found pornography on some Canadian Navy ship a few years ago, and everyone was shocked to find it out there. I'm like, these guys invented it. I would be worried if there wasn't any. Not to defend it, but I would be worried if there wasn't any on a ship.
It would be noteworthy.
Port cities are known for their chaste qualities.
Again, no drug dealers or sex trade workers in port cities.
Nope.
Great places to find a nice boy or girl. Settle down.
That's why the phrase "dry port" has spread like wildfire across the world.
Yeah. Okay. So it was. I thought it was, like, again, noteworthy. Like, these weird things where it's like, I mean, part of me is like, Spike, maybe he was always a bit of a Puritan, but has he gone?
I'd have to go back.
Has he become a Puritan? He has. He was one of the folks coming out. Like, I mean, a lot of these, hey, let's not talk too much about this, defund the police. Well, we're they're listening, but they could stop listening. Like a old conservative, I've made good. Hey, let's not rock the boat too much now.
Yeah.
Let's, a very, like the Communist Party in 1968 France. Like, I mean, they're actually, well, no, this is a great.
Oh, yeah.
This is an appropriate reference. I'm going to bring this home, Jim.
I never question.
Well, not with your mouth, but, these eye rolls are recorded. Anyway, so 68 France, like, just all part of the global, let's not say global. In the Western world, conflict, youth movements, a lot of pushback. The French worker had enough, and they were literally welding management into their offices in some cases. They weren't sitting in at the plant. They were just taking it over. And welding, in a couple of noteworthy cases, welding managers into their offices. They'd say, listen, you get out when we feel like letting you out.
Yeah.
So de Gaulle is like, we're going to lose the whole thing. He actually scurried off to the army and kind of going, hey, if we have to clamp down, you'll hook me up here. And but at the same time, they're all trying to do a deal. The Communist Party goes back and says, look, we can get you more money. They're bringing us this, they're bringing us this. And the workers in some of the more extreme extreme's too strong a word, but revolutionary types, and some of these unions are like, well, we don't want more money. We want the plant. We're the ones who build everything. That was the context of the time. Mm-hmm. And the Communist Party, which had become very used to, wow, we're elected officials now. We're respected by the bourgeoisie, and we have a say. And well, you just become enamored of your position, right? And this is the comparison I'm making to Spike Lee, who is, no, don't demand too much. What? Threaten a real change, Spike? Is that what you're concerned? So there you go. Told you I'd bring that home.
No, that's good. That's good. No, I'm always. It wasn't an eye roll as much as it was my what's the Home Alone kid? The Kevin. His look of surprise. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, would it really be a Jim and Rob overanalyze movies if Rob didn't trot out some Marxist BS at one point or another? I don't think it wouldn't be the same, would it?
No.
All of the several people.
No.
Okay. Let me. Is there what else? What else kind of struck you? I think we should be, kind of zeroing in on wrapping it up. But at the same time, I don't. I think I kind of cut you off last time. You were saying you had some other notes. So is there any?
I'm just sort of going over them now. There was a few nice touches. There was, the Paul character, the one that sort of, both restored and revoked his fatherhood to David as they're getting out of Vin's car. He's spraying him with bug spray. He's like, hold out your arms. And that was kind of a
little sweetness.
A little bit. So there was, I mean, and like I said, there's no movie is truly, well, I got to watch out how I say this, but most movies at least have something in them that whether it's an actor or a scene or whatever, there's something to hold on to, right? And so no movie is 100% worthless. I'm sure there's a couple movies out there, maybe some industrial art films or something like that. But with this one, there were some stuff in it. There were some things in it. The translated Vietnamese troupe that were talking about their wives back at home and that sort of thing. That was a nice touch. So there were some nice touches. I like seeing Clark Peters. I like seeing the story of the African American experience in Vietnam.
Clark was great.
He was, he's always super solid. So yeah, I mean there's that. It just I don't know. It sort of needed a stronger script, number one, and it just needed to be.
We needed to pick a story.
Yeah,
needed
to have the balls to stick with something, you know, and to give these characters some proper fates rather than just the sort of the random dice rolls that you had here. Or
do a heist movie with a little bit of poignancy because he's sick and he's got his kid here. But you could have had a great Kelly's Heroes or a Three Kings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a movie.
You could have had a Three Kings. You could have had Treasure. The Sierra Madre. Which I keep muffing more and more as we go.
I sort of it brings me to think, a lot of times I'm watching a movie, whether it's a cops and robbers show or a cops and serial killer show or ex-soldiers going to find gold or what have you. And a lot of times I think to myself, depending on the plot and what happens and how people mishandle things, these are the worst blanks ever. These are the worst cops ever. This is the worst serial killer ever. These are the worst soldiers ever. These are the worst travelers ever. These are the worst gold hunters ever. And I sort of wonder, if they were good at everything, would you have a movie?
Good point. But no, actually, the better something is, the better other things can be. Yeah. You know what? You got a great villain, all of a sudden the good guys their game automatically has to go up.
Yes.
Because the villain can't just wipe the floor with them.
Yeah.
If you've got a really strong, really competent characters, then their flaws have to be even bigger. They have to have an obstacle. So I think that can happen. Listen, is there, before we, I do think we need to wrap. I mean, we could, this is the one treasure that it keeps giving, is stuff to talk about in
and that's
this
Spike Lee for you. I mean,
terrible movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he made such a, well, you can give him this. He even in his messes, he made such a mess of it. You got a ton to work with.
Yeah.
And again, I suppose there's the possibility that we're just totally off our rocker, and this is genius stuff. But let me, you know what, Jim? I'm going to look up that hagiographic review. But before we wrap up, I'm going to give you the screen. Anything else you want to cover before we are going to find that hagiographic, that little top line review, and then we got to talk about what we're watching next week, and and encourage some folks to editorialize. 1 second here.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Please add. What else you got, Jim?
Okay. Yeah, no, I just anytime.
Give me
your.
We're gonna put a label on this. We're gonna call it Jim's and Another Thing.
Oh, sorry, you cut out there when you went to full screen. But anyway, maybe I should write up a synopsis and not do it on the fly. But that's I'll do that next week. Anytime you have a war movie and Spike Lee's involved. You expect. Oh, sorry. My thing came unplugged. This is like an expedition gone wrong. You have a lot of elements here. You have an.
Who would have thunk it?
I'm the worst podcaster ever.
No, that. Anyway, I'll reference for later.
The biggest obstacle was inside all this time. Anyway, I mean, if you want a good war movie, there's plenty to choose from. There's a and I should have mentioned this earlier. There's a movie about the French Algerian experience that I believe they're called the Blackfeet or the Pied Noir,
the Pied Noir, yes.
Yeah. So there's been a movie about that.
Another de Gaulle story, because de Gaulle touches everything.
And that is and it's said it's an attack on the Germans in Africa. I think just even getting onto the coast. So, but it's it's like a smaller scale, not quite Saving Private Ryan, but so there's that. But there's plenty of minority war stories. Glory, for instance, is fantastic. I would love to see something about there was Japanese Canadian troops in the First World Wars, not the Second. There were First Nation soldiers. They were often known for their sniping ability. They talked about other heroes in this movie. They talked about the first not Victoria Cross. The big award for heroism, this 18-year-old that was killed. I think he fell on a grenade. which echoes itself later in the movie. And they talked about the movie talks a lot about the African American military experience. There's tons of stuff out there, needs to be made. I'd look forward. I'd be the first in line for a ticket. But there's a lot of stories out there that haven't been captured, or if they have been captured, they are part of another story. Josephine Baker's role in the Second World War. I think there was a Diana Ross movie, but the movie Red Tails, which was not particularly well reviewed. There's a black character, an African American character in that. His story is really fascinating. And why the hell can't that be its own story? Why does he have to be in a big cast with about 8 or 9 other white guys? But anyway, so that's sort of my take on it. Are you? I can't hear anything from your end.
Yeah, no, the Restream does have a Restream. The one thing I find frustrating about this app, this service, is unlike StreamYard had its own challenges, but this one, it doesn't let me just take my visual off screen, but still be heard.
Yeah, it's been pretty good, and the picture quality I think is quite nice. But
that's and thank you. I can't find the particular one I'm looking for, but I'll read you some of the other. Like, just again, I give Rotten Tomatoes this. It kind of gives you right up front. It's like, oh my goodness, are y'all hoping for a job? Do y'all have scripts in your? Yeah. Do you have scripts in your possession that you're hoping he reads? Let's see if we can. Well, let's bring it up here. Just a second here. All right. Well, a little spotlight. And I'm gonna take you. Well, fudge. Another thing I find quite irritating. All right, here. This is the best I can do. All right, but okay. This is Clarisse Lowry, The Independent, UK top critic. Da 5 Bloods is so busy with ideas, thoughts, and passions that at times it feels like it's drowning in them. But still, a tomato, not a splat. Oh my goodness, Charlotte O'Sullivan, London Evening Standard. Da 5 Bloods is the first movie I've seen since lockdown began that made me yearn to be in a packed cinema. It's like, really? For this? At least in Netflix, you can turn it off.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is, and I think this is one of the, like, you're a Melanie McFarlane fan, aren't you? Salon.com.
No, that was
somebody
Stephanie Zacharek, who now writes for Time. But she did get her start in Salon, though. You're right.
Well, Melanie, I mean, now this is where I'm like, okay, you're drinking, you judge the wine based on the label. Foremost amongst its accomplishments is the confident ease with which it traverses many shades of human experience. Lee does this by skillfully fading discrete genres into each other over the course of its 2-hour and 35-minute runtime. What a fucking crock. I'm sorry for the S sharps here.
No. But, 7 minutes of credits, by the way.
Yeah.
235. Yeah. 228. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? 7 isn't actually that long. You can go over 10 with the big like effects driven.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway. Okay, we got a couple of comments. Let's wrap those up first. Sure. First of all, we have okay. Oh, we get to even put them all up. All right. Shashank, loved our conversation. Thank you very much, Shashank.
Yeah, thanks.
Glad you're here and
nice to meet you.
Absolutely. You know what, in Shashank, we will do this again. And you know what, maybe you and I should be thinking of a collab. That's what they call it, Jim. Maybe we could collab with Shashank.
I did
That's
check.
That's what the kids are calling it.
I think he's only Shashank's only 2 hours ahead of Jelly Duck there. So he was 8. A couple of hours ago, it was 8:45 in the morning, but
we'll do what these hipsters do with all their watch-alongs. We'll pick a watch-along and we'll put some weird time to watch it, so it's inconvenient for all of us.
That'd be great.
Get Jelly Duck involved. He's a big live streamer. Okay. Apocalypse Now, the best war Shawshank has ever seen. That's a great question.
Yeah.
Okay, we've seen a bad war movie.
Sure.
What is the best?
What's your favorite?
That's a tough one. Okay, there is one, a real bummer of a movie. It looks like a real bummer of a movie that I want us to watch.
Oh.
I just haven't found it yet, either online or, I just haven't found it yet. So up to that point, that's a tough one. I mean, Saving Private Ryan was kind of genius. Mm-hmm. Really just a great bit of filmmaking. Apocalypse Now, of course,
it's,
in some ways the Uber, but you know what? I gotta think about that one yet.
I do too, and maybe we'll come back to that. I have to say my favorite is,
thanks
one
for
of my
making that
favorites.
Comment, Shawshank.
Oh, Richard just chimed in and says Daz Boot, and that was.
Oh yes.
Which, Richard, I don't know if you know this or not, but CBC Gem has turned that, has refilmed it, and made it into a miniseries, so you can watch it off CBC Gem.
Wow! Oh.
Yeah, it's a brand new production. Apparently,
see, there we go. We're adding value to our viewers who stick to the end.
There you go. Tips.
Jelly Duck, this is so much
life
painful
hack
with these comments. LOL.
He was talking about the critics' comments. Yeah, that.
No, I like it. It is painful.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these days, maybe we'll do a little segment, Ahmed. About rate the reviewer. Review the review. Get super meta and catty.
A world of hurt. I should say my favorite one is probably, or one of the favorite ones is just off the top of my head, probably Glory. Yep. Glory, about the Civil War with Matthew Broderick and Morgan. Of course, I mentioned the white guy in it, but Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington, I think, won an Oscar for that. No, he didn't. I think he was nominated. Yeah. And a lot of great performances.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. What I find frustrating about this movie is that there's so many super solid Vietnam War movies, and he's pastiching them. He's just grabbing pieces, throwing it up there, and again, kind of in a lazy sort of well, we all know kind of like you're talking about in the front montage. In the upfront montage, it's also kind of, it seems that kind of permeates the whole film, where we're getting lazy bits of other films. It's like, here, I've given you this iconic image. Be happy. Okay, Shawshank also chimes in with 1917, Saving Private Ryan, and Apocalypse Now in that order.
That's some good watching.
Yeah, no, it is, and this is the thing. War movies are such a great genre for film because they are so cinematic. The Saving Private Ryan. Richard, great. He will check it out. So thanks for the
brought to you by Gem.
Anyone involved with Gem Executive, you could be sponsoring our show. Believe me, it would be cheap.
Forget normal people. Watch Daz Boot.
Okay. And I would even say, now this is going to sound weird, Alien. Aliens, not Alien, Aliens. I'm arguing that's a Vietnam War movie. And I think look at that movie, and it really is it's more so. George Lucas apparently was trying to make a Vietnam War movie. There was a Vietnam in Star Wars, which I'm like, okay, sure. Uh,
Oh, those Vietnamese stormtroopers.
yeah. Well, no, that the rebels were the Vietnamese.
Oh, okay.
Did you see
Gotcha.
fighting against the big technological
Yikes.
American? That was, so you can, okay, I kind of buy it. But I would say Aliens is more the putting the Vietnam War and, in science fiction.
Yeah.
Shawshank, what did I think of Greyhound? I have not seen it.
Yeah, I haven't either yet.
Yeah. Maybe we
on
you
the
know
list.
what? We'll get that on
It's
our list.
Apple
Maybe
TV, so I think I believe it's Apple TV.
Yeah, I think I can get it I can rent it off of Google
Okay.
Play Now. I think we can get it there.
I know a guy.
Yeah. Let me, even the way I'm like, well, I think I have access. Okay. I think before we announce the and it looks like you've all chimed in, but I want to be in this habit. You guys are you're great and you've always been very patient, but I want to stay in this habit of shamelessly first of all begging one more time for the like, the subscribe, and the notification. And again, this is something Jim and I hope to do on a pretty regular basis, review the films we've analyzed. And started already with my review, first movie, like YouTube review. Actually, I think it's the first review I've ever done in my life, which was of Futile and Stupid Gesture. Learned a lot from just the experience. And so the next one will be, a little leaner, but it's still, you can tell Jim and I we kind of enjoy the chit chat. But yeah, so that the link will be in the description. And Jim, do you want to tell us what our next movie is? Do you remember what our next movie is?
I think I do. I called it up on Wikipedia just to make sure that I had the right one. The Norwegian movie, The 12th Man.
That's right, folks. We're going back to Norway. Jim and I's most successful views, like for number of views, not necessarily they're sticking around, but right now our most successful podcast was for the Ashlad in Search of the Golden Castle, which has almost 150 views.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's mostly Norwegians and others thinking, this will be a bootleg on the thing. But on the off chance that people really kind of appreciate our coverage of Norwegian film, we're going to look at this. Oh, and it's a war movie.
It is.
Wow. You know what?
Yeah.
Shawshank.
Good point.
We can come back to that. You know what? We will. That'll be one of our questions. We'll take a bit of a deeper dive into what our favorite war movies are because we're watching a war movie next week. And not I think I look at the Five Bloods as a different kind of war movie. But all right. So with that, I think we're just going to wave goodbye and cue our outro. Folks. Again,
nice
you know what? We want to actually get you are very, very welcome. You take care too, Ahmed. I hope it doesn't get too hot.
Thanks,
we're going to put Greyhound in on our list of possible future movies. Shawshank, Richard, Katie, Ahmed, there's another viewer out there, laying low, which is super cool. Thank you all very much for coming. And I am now going to cue. It is time, Jim, to cue the fancy outro.
Happy viewing.